about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
Welcome back to Unsolved No More. So today is kind of a special day because I'm going to be talking about my newest book, my newest endeavor. And this was really special to me because although I had said that I probably was never going to write another book, I left the door open for fiction. I like creativity, and I have to have an outlet for that creativity sometimes. And when I took my most recent trip cross country after my dad died, had a lot of reflecting, a lot of alone time, peace time. But I wanted to use that time not only for that, but also to write and just see what came to me. And out of that came this book right here. Echoes of Evil, Unmasking the Minds of Infamous Killers. Now, this is just a proof book, but the book itself will be available starting, I have September 1st, but it might be before that because I got everything taken care of. It's about a little over 400 pages. And although it is fiction, I'd like to say that it's interwoven with nonfiction and true crime. Not sure if anything's been done like that before. I'm sure there probably has, but I haven't heard of it. So what I did for this book was to be able to marry up two different things. One being my creativity. I like dialogue. Quentin Tarantino, Rob Zombie movies. That type of dialogue I enjoy. But my bread and butter is cold cases and investigating old serial murderers and cases. So I thought, what if I could somehow join those together and make a book that was fiction but yet woven in nonfiction? Hence, Echoes of Evil. So what Echoes of Evil is about is a detective who always wanted to interview specific figures from the past. This detective likes history, and he is fascinated with the criminal mind, how it operates, how people murder, their pre and post offense behaviors. And he wondered what would happen if somehow he could travel back in time and interview said characters, infamous killers. Hence, Echoes of Evil. That detective is me, where I love true crime, the aspect, the unmasking, if you will, of the criminal mind. Why do people do the things that they do? So it's a fictional tale of me traveling back in time and interviewing infamous killers. And everybody in this book that I've written a chapter about has killed. Now, you don't want to label some of them as infamous killers, such as Crazy Horse, such as Elliot Ness, such as Seth Bullock, such as Billy the Kid. You get the picture. Contrast them to those names I just said, and Wyatt Earp, to some other people that I will travel back and interview. Ted Bundy, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, Richard Speck, John Wayne Gacy, Helene Warnos. So there's different type of killers. If you want to use the word killer, it's hard. It's hard for me to use the word killer when describing Wyatt Earp. But he's killed. But yet I don't have a problem saying the word killer when I talk about Richard Speck. See the dichotomy there? So what this book is about on the surface is me going back and interviewing these people, but it's also looking at the overall picture of why we as society lump everybody under the word killers if they are serial offenders, people that have killed, and we shun them. They're not bad. Billy the Kid, John Dillinger, they're not bad people. But yet, Ted Bundy is. Richard Ramirez is. Jeffrey Dahmer. So, I want to look at that. And I want to bring that to the forefront to you through this book. And it was a fascinating journey. I said I would never write another book, mainly nonfiction, because the troubles, you always end up upsetting somebody. And I don't like to do that. Especially, it's never done intentionally, but it's the way people are. They take things the wrong way. So in fiction, you don't really have to worry about that. But this is using real names, real people, real events. But it's in the work of fiction. But what's not fiction, this is what I would say to them when I go back and I go to, Ted Bundy, and I sit down, and the questions that I would ask him about specific victims, why he did certain things. That's all true. This is what I would take from it, and what he would say to me, how I feel, because of the way he did past interviews. O.J. Simpson, the way he minimizes his narcissistic views. His answers to me in this book are what I feel he would say because of that. Timothy McVeigh, the Unabomber. There's so many characters that I look at in this book, and not only do I interview them, some of them I want to observe, no matter how hard that is. Listen, there's some people that say, how can you talk to that murderer in real life? Because I correspond with several murderers, because I learn from them, and I know not all killers are the same. And my goal is, at the end of this book, you will realize that a lot of these killers are no different than you and me. Now, you're throwing a fit right now saying, oh, yeah, well, I am different. Well, I'm here to tell you you're not. You just are not in the right situation to kill. We all have the ability to kill. It's our decision making and the situations that we are presented that make us different. So, as I flip through this book, I look at somebody like, we talked about O.J. Simpson. Different type of murderer, okay? That's rage, that's jealousy, that's domestics and police talk, okay? I would I would not be wrong by saying that is probably the most common form of murder, at least in the United States. Ted Kaczynski, we talked about, different type. The Zodiac Killer. Okay, yes, he was never caught. But in this fictional world, I can go back and talk to him and find out things from him, why he does what he does. The Sandy Hook shooting, mass shootings, which are now more prevalent, I believe, in society than serial killing. Why is that? Well, I'll go back and I'll talk to the individual responsible for that in this fictional world and find out. Lizzie Borden. I go back and I talk to Lizzie, and what she tells me, you're going to be surprised at. But it's important to understand females murder too. Okay. Al Capone. I get into organized crime. I've worked organized crime. Roy DeMeo, an enforcer. Tony Spilatra, another enforcer. What makes these guys different than Richard Ramirez and Jeffrey Dahmer? They murder. Okay, but why are some murderers celebrated where others are shunned and vilified? That's the essence of this book. I go out and I observe individuals hunting. Dahmer at a bar, picking up somebody to take to his place to murder. Bundy, Billy the Kid, Wild Bill Hickok. I mean, there's just so many individuals. Richard Ramirez, probably the nastiest and the most graphic explanation in storytelling will be in his chapter. I think I have good insight into him, and that'll explain why. Bundy's, of course, he's going to be graphic. The dialogue that I use in there between me and him will show his narcissistic personality, and how he tries to blame pornography. All these things that you've ever known about serial killers, and you say to yourself, "Man, I wish I could have gone back and talked to him. What would I have said?" Or when you're watching an interview with Charles Manson and you say, "Why didn't the reporter ask him that? Why didn't the cop ask him this in the interrogation?" Well, that's how I was. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back and ask them the tough questions. I'm going to ask OJ, why did you do it? Just cut through the BS. I know you did it. You know you did it. Tell me why. And he does. To go back and watch Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday on the streets of Tombstone have a conversation about murder. Yes, it's fiction, right? But if you do it well enough and you have good dialogue and great historical context, it's almost like it's nonfiction and you were there. And that is the goal. When you read this book, to put you in that mind frame of I'm there. I've had several people read this book and they were blown away by it. Okay? They just said that they've never read anything like that. The dialogue was great. The interweaving of historical facts and fiction was just tremendous. And I'm blown away by that. They said this was the best book I've ever written. Now, I don't consider myself an author, but this is the first book I enjoyed writing. The other ones, there was either an obligation or I was doing it to fulfill some sort of egotistical type of sense in myself. This wasn't any of that. This was something I wanted to do creatively. And each person that I sat down and interviewed, Richard Speck, who had killed the 8 nurses, I believe, in Chicago, Bonnie and Clyde, again, Crazy Horse, Carlos Hathcock, which you guys probably never heard of, the greatest Marine Corps sniper in the world, killed. Yet he is celebrated. Why? And I'll answer that. But I go back and I talk to him in the jungles of Vietnam. Again, Seth Bullock, the Deadwood Sheriff, Wild Bill Hickok, Jack the Ripper. You know, it's a fascinating journey through time to see how the evolution of murder, if it has at all, evolved. From prehistoric days, caveman, to Wild West, to the Roaring 20s, to today, with the prevalence of social media. We go through it all. I'm very proud to put this book out. Okay? You'll have to look for it on probably first my website, kenmains.com. Probably start selling it there first. Get some signed copies out. Then it'll be available, probably pre-order on Amazon. But it's coming out within the next week or two. All right. I have September 1st set as the date for sure, but it might be sooner than that because I'm excited to get it out there and let you guys read this. If you truly want to get into the mind of a murderer, of a serial killer, and a detective who does cold cases, you have to read this book. Okay? And what I'm proud of is that it's written in a way that you can understand it. One thing that I hate is getting a book from an academia type that uses, like in here when I interview Ted Kaczynski, he wants to prove that he's smarter than you. So he's going to use all these big words. He's going to talk in circles like Manson does in here to make you think that he is more brilliant than what he is. In Manson's case, anyhow. Kaczynski, yeah, he was more brilliant than me. But and you'll see when I talk to him how that dynamic goes. But when I read a book from these academia types, you know, yes, I've gone to college, but I don't consider myself an academia type. I talk and I write in a way that you can understand it. Okay? You shouldn't have to wonder what the author is thinking, what he's trying to convey. It should just flow naturally, and you can see it and read it here and experience it. So, that's it. I just wanted to give you a brief update on this book. Again, I'm very proud of it. 408 pages. So many different killers. Infamous characters that I go back and talk to and observe in their natural hunting ground. Because remember, because you're interviewing somebody, sometimes they'll tell you what you want to hear. Think of who's that guy? He confessed to all the murders that they said killed Adam Walsh. The name is escaping me. Otis Toole. See, it'll come back eventually. Sometimes they tell you what you want to hear for their own satisfaction purposes. So what you need to do, if you believe that that's happening, or even if you don't, be around that individual when, one, there's nothing to gain and they don't know you're there. So in this book, I'm able to do that. All right. I sit down and I interview Charles Manson at Spawn Ranch. Okay. Tell me things. He goes on his mumbo jumbo about society, Xing them out, and this and that, and it's all historical context. But I'll listen to it. But now let me drift off, go away. You think I'm gone, and let me hang out in the dusty saloon at Spawn Ranch when you're talking to the family, and I can see what you're really saying, and observe you, and watch when you're not minimizing. And that's what I do in this book. Not just to Manson, Bundy, Dahmer, Billy the Kid. So that's what's fascinating about it. I loved writing this. I can't tell you how much I loved it. And you're going to love it too. I promise you. So look out for it. My webpage coming soon. It'll be on there. Just keep checking or check my socials. Kenneth Maines on Facebook, Unsolved No More. Just search it. It'll come up and you'll see links for it. It's going to be sales. It's going to be a huge release for me. I'm so excited about it. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy Echoes of Evil, Unmasking the Minds of Infamous Killers by none other than Kenneth L. Maines. And just like I end the book here, I'm going to end it the same way here as I always do, and that is Maines out.
Yeah, let's talk about